Wales is stunning, no doubt about it. But as tourists, we have to ask, what exactly are we part of when we post that Facebook photo or pay to see a view? The more you walk here, the more you realise this landscape isn't just beautiful, it's political. And for generations, writers and artists haven't just mirrored back the scenery, they've questioned who owns it, who controls it, what stories get told.
Hi, I'm Justine, the nerdy half of the Breakaway Bravehearts, and today I'm in Betws-Y-Coed. Because we're in Snowdonia, the heart of Wales, I wanted to hear the heart of the nation, so I'm turning to the nation's poets. This little village on the edge of Snowdonia was a very popular destination in the 19th century, especially for artists and poets. In fact, the UK's first artist colony was founded here. And that's what makes Betws-Y-Coed the perfect place for this theme. Writers have long come here to walk in the land and to listen, and then to capture that voice that they heard, the muse that is around them. That train brings you not just to a village, but to a conversation. So let's go chat with nature. Just arriving at Betws-Y-Coed is a unique experience on its own. You arrive through valleys, you've got the beautiful mountains and the forest in the background, you've got rivers as you pass through, and then you get to this gorgeous little station. You just get the sense straight away that this place is special.
Betws-Y-Coed began as a small monastic settlement in the 6th century. Its name is itself a bilingual creation. It means prayer house in the wood, from the Old English betus and the Welsh y-coed. For centuries it remained a quiet rural community of farmers and woodland workers living off the land. Its isolation preserved a way of life shaped by seasons and tradition. But all that changed in the early 19th century. Artists and writers from the Romantic movement were drawn here by the natural beauty, and Betws-Y-Coed soon appeared in paintings, poems and travel journals. The arrival of the railway accelerated its transformation, and the town became one of Wales's earliest and most iconic Victorian tourist destinations. And it's easy to understand why. The scenery speaks for itself, even though other voices have tried to impose themselves upon it.
The railway came through Betws-Y-Coed in 1868. It became a gateway between old and new, between English speaking and Welsh speaking. And it started to challenge identity, because the English visitors that came here had expectations. They were looking for Welshness as they defined it. The train station is beautiful. It's not dramatic or flashy, it's just like this wholesome quaintness. And of course, that is exactly what it was originally designed to be.
Wholesome quaintness doesn't just happen by accident. Betws-Y-Coed became a place not just to see Wales, but a certain kind of Wales. The kind you had to pay for to fully experience. Our first stop is Swallow Falls, so we'll need to bring our wallet. It's an Instagram favourite today, but it will cost you a couple of pounds to see it.
The walk to the waterfall is beautiful and grueling. Please make sure you bring a hat and some water. If you're taking the road, there is no shade at all. You're in direct sunlight the whole way. Down here by the river there's a bit of shade, but you'll definitely need walking boots for this.
So I'm very glad I bought my walking boots today, because then you can climb down over the rocks and really get up close. And it's worth every single step. Swallow Falls is one of the most photographed areas in Snowdonia. And you can see why. It's absolutely stunning. The waterfall just cascades down. But the beauty here comes with questions. Who owns this land? Who profits from the image of Welshness? You see, places like Swallow Falls are marketed as Welsh heritage, even though the control over them hasn't always been in Welsh hands. Swallow Falls has been a paid attraction since 1913. It was so popular in the Victorian era that they decided to use the entry to pay for local infrastructure, seen as it was bringing so many tourists into the town. Its recorded history connects it with the Wynn estate, a Welsh family powerful from the 16th century. But over time, the land came to be owned by the Willoughby family, who were English aristocrats. By the 19th century, it had been renamed Swallow Falls and was a hugely popular Victorian tourist destination. Just like much of Snowdonia, English landowners managed the forests, the rivers, even the access paths, deciding who could enter and enjoy these places. But at the time, there was growing political pressure for public access to natural landscapes and a rising Welsh national challenge to English control over Welsh land. So when, in 1913, Lord Ancaster gifted Swallow Falls to the people of Betws-Y-Coed, it was a significant gesture.
So it was used for a very practical purpose, but it still raises a lot of questions about access, rights, and ownership of land when you start turning beauty into a commodity.
So it's here we'll hear from our first poet, Idris Davies, and the landscape of Gwalia stained for all time by the bloody hands of progress. Davies was born in 1905 in the South Wales Valleys. He worked as a miner from the age of 14, losing a finger in an accident, and witnessed the 1926 general strike and Depression-era hardship. The experiences taught him that progress often scars both people and landscape. So what of Swallow Falls? At first glance, it doesn't seem stained by progress. The water still rushes down the rock face, but human presence is here, carefully managed. The stairwell guides visitors to the best photo points, and of course there's that small fee to get in. This money helps fund infrastructure that supports tourism and in turn benefits the local economy. So in one sense, it's progress, but that same system also draws a line. Nature's still here, but curated, framed, and fenced in.
This idea of ownership of land really does speak to me as a New Zealander. It's a discussion that our country has been having for a while, a debate that's as old as our treaty, our constitution, for want of a better word, because the English colonial understanding of belonging and how land can be possessed was very different to the Indigenous people of New Zealand. We are here as guardians of the land. We are here to protect and look after the gifts that nature has given to us, to respect rather than to own and possess. This beautiful land is wild and free, and that's what it's telling me. You can come and you can look and you can admire, but I take my pathway.
So while Davies was referring to the impact of the industrial era, his words still raise questions today about the promotion of tourism as an economic plan. In an age of over-tourism, where natural beauty can be loved to the point of erosion, the question becomes, how do we protect a place without turning it into a product?
This tour is one of my self-guided walking tours. I'm not going to show you all the spots today, but I'm going to give you some of my favourite bits, the highlights from my perspective. I just want to make a small break to say thank you to all our subscribers and a huge shout out to all the Liverpudlians. Your support around the Liverpool video has been incredible. It really has just motivated me to keep going, so thank you. And if you're not a subscriber yet, please join us. We'd love to have you on board. You might even want to check out membership. If you hit join below, you'll become a member of the Breakaway Bravehearts. You get all these perks and bonuses, including all of the downloadable self-guided tours.
All this land around Betws-Y-Coed has inspired generations of poets and writers, but it's not only through words that people have tried to understand this place. Sometimes it's painting that gets closer to the truth. One of the most important artists to emerge from Wales in the 20th century is Mary Lloyd Jones. Born in 1934, she grew up surrounded by the mid-Wales hills. For Lloyd Jones, painting the landscape is never just about scenery, it's about connection. She once said, "My aim is that my work should reflect my identity, my relationship with the land, an awareness of history, and the treasure of our literary and oral traditions." For a long time, Welsh artists expected to imitate English and European modes of landscape painting. Mary Lloyd Jones rejects this passive view. In many of her works, the surface of the land is marked. These are real historical scripts once used in this region. In doing so, she's sometimes faced criticism for being too Welsh or for incorporating inaccessible symbolism. Land in Wales has always been political. The same land that tourists admire today was once the site of clearance, displacement and economic exploitation. Lloyd Jones pushes back against that, insisting that beauty and history can't be separated. She's now recognised as a leading voice in post-war Welsh art. The connections I found here between the landscape and the politics of Wales is just one more example of how Wales reminds me of my own home country, New Zealand. I'm actually going to make a whole nother video about that because the similarities are striking. And just a short walk from here, St Michael's Church is the oldest building in Betws-Y-Coed, a small, sturdy stone chapel with a quiet graveyard sloping gently towards the river.
So by the 19th century, when Betws-Y-Coed was a popular Victorian destination, this little medieval churchyard became an inspiration for many of the notable artists and writers of the day. St Michael's has been here since the 14th century, if not earlier. It was here before the railways, before the artists, before the name Snowdonia was even known. When Betws-Y-Coed was a little outpost on the edge of the forest where pilgrims passed through. Like much of Welsh history, the church's story is one of change. The people now resting here lived through the Reformation, the erosion of the Welsh language from public worship, and centuries of governance from the outside.
The place carries something, that dense, reflective stillness you often find in old churchyards, where nature has been allowed to creep in slowly without being cleared away.
So a fitting place to hear from one of Wales's most famous poets, Dylan Thomas. The force that through the green fuse drives the flower, drives my green age, that blasts the roots of trees, is my destroyer. Dylan Thomas wrote those words when he was only 19. Such a young age for such a sharp and intuitive understanding of how nature both sustains us and undoes us.
Dylan Thomas is one of Wales's most internationally recognised literary figures. Born in Swansea in 1914, he grew up in a bilingual country but came from a solely English-speaking home. He often said that he never learned Welsh, a detail that for some distanced him from the cultural heart of Wales. He once said that his poems were not meant to be understood so much as felt.
I don't find Dylan Thomas's words sad or somber in any way. I actually find them really quite peaceful. There's just a sort of natural beauty in that circle of life. This graveyard is so vast and so full and so old. With centuries upon centuries of burials, it's hard to imagine all the different types of people, so many different lives and stories, imagining all their experiences over the eras and the history periods that this churchyard has lived through. But now they're united by that force that Dylan talks about. It's very humbling when you think of us all coming together in the end in this way. And to see nature growing back through the graves, reclaiming the space exactly as it should be.
Thank you for joining me on this walk through Betws-Y-Coed today. I've so enjoyed being up close with nature and getting closer to Wales through the words of its writers and the colours of its artists. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about the history of Wales, I've made another video that goes into a little bit more detail, so I've popped the link up there above. And if you'd like to learn more about its poets and artists, don't forget this is part of a much bigger tour of Betws-Y-Coed.
If you want to do the full tour for yourself, check out the description below. It'll show you where you can get a copy. There's still so much more of Wales to discover. I hope you'll come with us. Hit subscribe and the notifications bell to join us there. Until then, happy travels everyone.